This episode is brought to you by Ghost Patch. Ghost Patch is a law enforcement owned and operated company specializing in patches, coins, and flex shields. Quality is top priority with low prices. They always offer free design work and never charge mold or setup fees. Stop letting the big companies rip you off and check out Ghost Patch at ghostpatch.com and ghostpatchcustom.com. Now to the next story.
Just all hell broke loose. It was just insane. I mean, we're sitting there and just the shots just start coming through, and I'm sitting there with my little AR yelling at my gunners to, direct their fire because RPGs are flying over our heads. I mean, you can hear the pops, the snaps flying by your head. I mean, your head's just over that truck, and you're just waiting. At any second, is this bullet gonna come smash me in the face? Is this really about to happen? And of course, I'm 21 years old, still a kid. I'm thinking in my head, okay, what do I need to do as a leader? My whole thought process is, and I know what we're supposed to do, we're supposed to break contact, get out of the kill zone. But then I also have a thought process, I got a down truck with soldiers in it. I was like, how do I do this? After I got stabilized and everything else, I got flown again to Bagram, which is the main air base. And on the flight line, my dad was there, just standing there, shaking his head. I was like, of course I had a smile on my face. He goes, "Goddamn, son." He goes, "You look like shit." My dad was actually the one who wiped a lot of the blood off me, because I had a lot of blood still on my legs, my face, and my arms. I mean, I was still just covered in blood, so. I mean, I talked about him, but there's been quite a few others. I mean, I lost a good amount of my buddies to the suicide, and it's a struggle for those guys. I mean, for all of us, really. I mean, some of the stuff we do and see, it's a struggle. We got to be opened up to find help. You have to. I mean, whether it's your friends, your family, you're just going to talk to somebody, you have to, and it's not a sign of weakness. It's not.
You're listening to the ATO Bridging the Divide podcast, brought to you by the Assist the Officer Foundation.
Since 1999, the ATO has given assistance to the first responder community, and now we want to give them a platform to hear their incredible stories.
We also want to hear the stories of the many people that support us.
Our community is small, but it is strong.
We have differences. We don't always agree, and we all make mistakes.
But together we can grow, we can heal.
And we can learn from those mistakes.
And together we can bridge the divide.
I am an American soldier. I am a warrior and a member of a team. I serve the people of the United States and live the Army values. I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat. I will never quit. I will never leave a fallen comrade. I am disciplined, physically and mentally tough, trained and proficient in my warrior tasks and skills. I always maintain my arms, my equipment, and myself. I am an expert, and I am a professional. I stand ready to deploy, engage, and destroy the enemies of the United States of America in close combat. I am a guardian of freedom and the American way of life. I am an American soldier. Soldier's Creed. There are many reasons amazing individuals choose to serve their country. Some are inspired by their families. Some are drawn by their opportunities. Some feel they have a duty to protect others. Whatever the reason they choose to take on this great honor, all of them go in knowing that they serve at a cost to their mind and body. Today's guest knows the cost of service. I am proud to have this guest on to tell his story of survival, and I want to say to his beautiful family that shares him with us, thank you. Tyler Remediz, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Before we get going in your show, I want to welcome on some very special guest co-hosts. One is long time with the podcast, and it's been a while since he's been on the mic, Randy Aguilar. Thanks for being here.
Hello.
And new to the mic, but long-time listener, newly promoted lieutenant, Wade Dews. Wade, thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hey, before we get started, Kent, hello to you too. When we started this thing years ago, when Joe's idea came to beginning, Tyler, you were one of the first people I think we had on the list that I suggested we get on there just because of your history and your military service. But I want to thank Joe. I don't think the listeners realize the amount of work and nut kicking it takes to put these together, because he runs this the way he wants to, and there's a lot of birds chirping that always want to be part of it or why they didn't get to be part of it. So, Joe, thank you. And, I know you did a good job about it, but I just want to give you a shout out because I know it's a lot of work, and especially with what you do with the wellness unit, with the ATO, and having a kid at home and being a newlywed, you got a lot going on. So the fact you're able to handle all this stuff is amazing. And we're ready to go. I want to give 2 shout outs to my 2 fans, Trapper Taylor and gentleman Chris Adams, your classmate.
That is my classmate.
Yeah, but I got 2 fans that I know of. So anyway, Joe, take it away.
Thanks, brother. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And, you've been with me on this since the beginning. All right, let's kick this off. Tyler, talk about life growing up.
Well, I had a pretty good life growing up. I grew up as a military brat, basically. My dad was military. I was born here in Arlington, but moved every 2 years all over the states. Lived in Germany for a couple years. And then I had 4 different high schools in 4 different states. I had my freshman year in Indiana, my sophomore year in Massachusetts, my junior year in Georgia, and then my senior year in Kansas.
That's a lot of Letterman jackets you probably wear. One for almost every day of the week.
I just sew them all together and just made one.
Just different mismatch patch. Yeah.
Kept it simple.
It's like a hobo Letterman jacket.
Mm-hmm.
What was home life like, being a military brat? And, usually from what I've seen and heard of people that have the kids that grow up in a military lifestyle, it's a pretty strict household.
For the most part, no, I don't think so. I mean, my dad deployed a lot, but there's 5 of us all together, so he had to keep up with every single one of us.
What was his rank?
He ended up retiring as a lieutenant colonel.
He was in the Army?
Yeah. He's intelligence.
Intelligence.
I know you're looking at me and going, come on now. Where'd that go?
Was he ever deployed in any active combat zones when you were a kid, or how?
Yeah, he went to Desert Storm, and he spent a lot of time in Kuwait and stuff like that, and doing the Middle East stuff because it was his job. And then, actually, I guess we'll get back to that later, but we both deployed at the same time.
How'd that affect home life and stability? And y'all worry about him, or was he ever frontline stuff, or how?
Honestly,
how did that affect y'all? Do you ever think about it, or did it have any effect on y'all?
For the most part, he didn't really talk about what he was doing over there. I know, he commanded a lot of stuff and did a lot of different things, but you still kind of worry about it. Still my dad. Yeah. Whenever he was doing, like I said, he didn't really talk about it a lot at all. But my mom, she's probably one of the strongest people I know right now. She had to deal with all that, and put up with all our crap. So,
about siblings?
Yeah, so I got 2 older brothers, a younger sister, and a younger brother. So I was a middle child.
What are their names?
So my oldest brother is Thomas, and then my other older brother is Todd. They're all T's, you're going to see. And then my sister, Tiffany, and then my little brother, my big brother, Travis. Yeah, all T's. So when my mom would yell, it would be tiff.
So you had all these stockings on the thing. They all had just T's on the Christmas stockings on the.
Yeah, and my mom stitched them all up. She was very big into that whole sewing thing.
Crocheting.
Yeah, something like that.
So your decision to go into the Army, talk about that, and was that kind of like where your family was kind of pushing towards with that, growing up in that lifestyle?
God, no. So my senior year was in 2002. So it was pretty much 9/11 happened. And living on base, I mean, it went crazy. They got on the intercom and everything else was like, hey, if you're in the military or need to be on base, because our high school was off base, so it was more civilian. So we all had to get into our cars and try to get on base. And where I graduated was Leavenworth, Kansas. It was actually surrounded by federal prisons. So you go, as soon as you drive up to like getting right in front of, and they're all surrounded the base. So as soon as you get up there, and you'll just see like all the guards were outside with their guns and everything else. And base, I mean, they had the up armored trucks, or the Humvees were up there with the guys all cocked, ready to rock. And I was like, good Lord. So, and then for my decision making wise, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I don't think I was college bound by any means. I don't think I was ready for that. So my dad was kind of pushing he said, yeah, you should think about the military. He was pushing more Air Force. Well, that's not what happened. I watched way too many shows. One of my favorite movies was Platoon. So it kind of got me synced in, oh, I like that, the infantry stuff. That looks cool. Watch too much movies. So I went to the recruiter and signed up. Of course, I went home and I had the delayed entry program. I think I was 18. I just turned 18, so my dad laughed at me. He goes, what'd you do? I was like, I showed my military a little fake ID thing. And he goes, what'd you do? I was like, I joined the Army, Dad. He started laughing. He goes, well, I mean, that's great. He goes, but what did you do? I was like, I joined the infantry. There were some choice words. And he started laughing. He goes, why? I was like, I don't know. I watched too much TV. Just something that seemed like the right thing to do at the time. I mean, I think everybody was most patriotic you'd be right after 9/11. So, I mean, I was ready.
How was boot camp for you?
Oh, God. So my younger age, I will say this, I was one of the smoking types, so I had to quit doing that. I got on the bus, got to Georgia, because we went to Fort Benning, Georgia. All infantry guys did. And you get there, and drill sergeants just start automatically into you. And that's just the processing. So they're yelling, screaming at you. You get your nice haircut, which means they shave your head.
They didn't have a wellness unit for you?
No, I needed one, though. I definitely needed that.
Different times,
yeah. Guys just screaming in your face, hitting you with their nice little caps and their little drill sergeant hats. And then I think my first day en route to boot camp, they loaded up cattle trucks with all our gear. And they're like, oh, sorry, no room for you. So they ran us all the way back to our unit where we're going to be at, our basic training unit. I think it was Echo 219, I think I was in basic. And just you get there, and it's just a big pile. And each of us have 2 duffel bags full of gear. And there's a big pile. This is like the only day, like out of all basic training, this was like the worst day of that's when you knew it got real. Just a big pile of duffel bags. And then you got a bunch of drill sergeants just standing there waiting for you to just line up. And you got 2 minutes to find your duffel bag. Of course, that's not going to happen. We got smoked. They had like ambulances pulling up because this is Georgia, middle of summer. People were just passing out with heat exhaustion, just exhausted, puking everywhere. I mean, just trying to find your duffel bag. It was definitely a kick in the face. Just saying, hey, just got real.
What'd you learn most about yourself?
It took a minute to learn a little bit how to, your parents ain't there, your dad ain't there. Like I said, you get like a minute phone call saying, hey, Dad, I'm at base training and I'm done. And of course, he's laughing in the background. You can tell how scared you are. But I think I learned, I guess the basic phrase is to embrace the suck.
What was it like growing up with your dad? He was an officer, correct?
Yeah, I left that out. I didn't tell anybody.
Well, but you went from driving on base every day to getting saluted to not getting saluted at all.
Correct.
Just one finger salutes.
Yeah, pretty much, or more of the chop right to the face. I got a lot. And of course, once again, that's one of the questions they did ask me. Who has somebody dad's an officer and everything? And I was like, my dad told me, don't you tell them anything. So of course, I kept it. I didn't tell no one.
Did they ever find out?
Oh yeah. So after base training, it was pretty crazy. It was gut check. But my dad ended up coming in uniform during graduation, and I got smoked again because I didn't tell him my dad was an officer.
So when you got during basic, go a little bit deeper into that and tell us about how that went.
So basically, what basic training is, they just you get MOSs or jobs in the military have like basic and AIT. For infantry guys, we didn't. I can't remember the acronym for it, but we have just straight up. I mean, you go from basic training all the way up to congratulations, graduated basic training to the drill sergeant yelling right back at you because it's the same guys. You're not going anywhere for it. It's all, and then you just basically get your infantryman school. So I mean, it's the same drill sergeants. Honestly, they didn't treat us any differently. Didn't get to get a nice haircut, and there was no cell phones. It was you're at your basic training unit with your drill sergeants. So it's pretty much that.
Making good friends, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Actually, I became a good friend with one of my drill sergeants because when I was promoting later on in my career, he actually came to my unit the day I was promoted to sergeant. He remembered who I was.
Well, I know we're going to get into your police career, but usually when you go to these like academy classes, like Randy and I were classmates and almost 28 years ago, and the people you go through stuff like that with, you do have a bond that usually forms. Do you keep in touch with some of your guys from boot camp?
No, actually.
No,
we
really?
all went to different divisions.
Just got spread out. Okay.
Yeah, because the basic way we worked is like we had bunks, and like I was with 10th Mountain, so everybody that bunked around me was all 10th Mountain guys. You got your 82nd guys, and it kind of just to build that camaraderie with each other. So because you're going to the same unit, so you might as well be able to hang out with each other.
I want to get into 10th Mountain, the Fort Drum 10th Mountain Division. That's where you went, right?
Yes, I actually volunteered to go to that, which was another laughter from my dad.
Why was that?
Because I volunteered to go because, like I said, I've been to a bunch of different bases, just haven't been one I've been to. Well, couldn't find out it was probably one of the coldest ones, and it was cold.
I want to give a little history on this division. I started doing some research on it when I read your bio. Started in World War II under the command of Major General Lloyd Jones. It was the 10th Light Division, Alpine. It was constituted in July 10th, 1943, and it was actually activated on July 15th at Camp Hill in Colorado. January 1945, it started executing combat operation in northern Italy. John D. McGrath performed the combat actions that would make him the division's first soldier to earn the Medal of Honor. Notable assignments for this division include Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm, Hurricane Andrew relief in 1992, Operation Restore Hope, Operation Uphold Democracy, and the War on Terrorism in Afghanistan. 2001, the 10th Mountain Division provided the first conventional combat forces to deploy in response to the 9/11 attacks. And that is the time that kind of you got the passion to want to get out there and get boots on the ground, correct?
Correct. Like I said, I watched a lot of movies, watched the news a lot. My dad was always watching the news anyways too. So you see the videos, you see all this, you're like, man, I want to do that. Of course, I mean, none of it's real until you actually get there, but just seemed like the right thing to do.
When you got to that division, talk about that, getting out of boot camp and going to that division, you volunteering for that division. When you got there, what was your idea of what it would be like, and then what was the reality?
So you think you have to get out of base training, you're like, yeah, this is going to be great, this is going to be great. Well, first of all, you have to fly up there, and I flew instead of flying into Syracuse, because Fort Drum's actually an hour north of Syracuse, I flew into Watertown, New York, which is right outside the base. Everybody that knows me knows I hate flying. And it was like a little puddle jumper. So, I mean, it was small, and it was shaking, it was raining. So that was my first experience. But from there, you go to like some orientation where they give you more gear and stuff like that. And 10th Mountain is known for cold weather infantry guys, so it's a lot of cold weather gear, like big Mickey Mouse boots, extreme cold bear mittens. I mean, it gets cold, lots of snow. Then you get to your unit, and I think I got there right when the guys got back from Fort Polk, Louisiana, which, like I said, you think you're done with drill sergeant, you're done with all the drill sergeants. Now you got to prove yourself to all these guys who've been together for years. Of course, none of these guys have deployed yet to Afghanistan, but they're getting ready to. Usually after you get back from Polk, you're getting ready to go jump in a plane and go overseas.
And what year was that?
That was in 2002.
Because that was war was gearing up.
Yes.
And that's what you wanted to do.
Yep. And from what I found out, too, 10th Mountain was one of the most deployed units, so I was, hey, let's do it. Let's go. So got there, man, I had a lot of the older guys, and they just drilled into me because they want to see how much, you can suck it up and all that. Like, I'd carry almost everybody's gear during these movements. We did a lot of road marching. throwing like 80 pounds on your back and just walking. And it's no simple little stroll. It's a walk. It's fast-paced walking. It's moving. And then they just wanted to see if I could suck it up, and I had a platoon sergeant that was just a beast. A short little guy, but man, his name was Sergeant First Class East at the time. And that guy would just drill into us, especially as younger soldiers. I don't really want to say the words what he would call us, but it's definitely derogatory.
We got the explicit tag to work.
Yeah.
We'll bleep it out.
Yeah. No.
But from one, like, that was the guy you wanted to earn his respect for, though. I mean, he was that guy. He was Ranger. I mean, just taught us well, tried to treat us like men, but I mean, he drilled into us pretty hard. And I remember this one time he found out, like I said, my dad was an officer. Once again, I don't tell people that. I don't need anybody to know that. Well, I got called up to the battalion commander and sergeant major's office when I first got to the unit as a private. And of course, I get called into my platoon sergeant lieutenant's office, and I'm getting just screamed out. And this is on a Monday, so we had a weekend. So everybody's curious, what did you do this weekend? I sat in my room. I didn't really know anybody. Some couple of the guys that I came to the unit with, and he's just screaming at me. They're yelling at me, doing push-ups. I mean, a lot of it's just physical. They just want to see if they can get in your head and, see if you can kind of suck it up, see what kind of person you're going to be. And I had no clue, honestly, why I was getting called up to battalion commander. I get up there, and it was one of my dad's friends, was the battalion commander. And now, of course, I have to go back to my platoon sergeant and tell him why I got called up there, and that turned into a lot of issues as well. But it was more of earning that man's respect, and the time I figured out I earned his respect when he started calling me like I said, you're going to have to bleep it out anyways. He would start calling me a wild dick. So that was like my.
That's what I'm going to use in the title. Yeah. Tyler Remediz, wild dick.
There's nothing to bleep out.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't bleep anything
When
out.
he called me that, though, that was that day. I was like, man, I moved up from being that simple private to. It almost seemed like a little more respectful.
Wild dick now.
Yeah, wild dick. Yep. I was down for that. So, but he was a man. I learned a lot from that platoon, the guys, especially deploying with those guys in my first deployment as a private. I mean, it was pretty freaking crazy.
Where'd you deploy first?
Afghanistan.
In what year was that?
Oh, I think that was in early 2004, late 2003.
Now that first unit, you said the boot camp people, you don't keep you keep in contact with these guys at all, or?
Oh God, yeah.
Okay.
We have group messages on Facebook, and those. I mean, they definitely keep in contact with these guys.
Send them wild dick pics.
Sometimes.
Okay. So that was early 2004. When you got out there and got into real combat, how did you adapt to that?
You get so much training in the Army because it's constant. Like, I mean, that's all we do is train, and then getting the motivation, and we'll call it, from your leadership. And I mean, you just kind of just push through it. It's just one of those things you just react.
I can't speak for Wade or Deuce, but I know for me and Joe, how quick from when y'all got boots on the ground to where the time it took from getting off a plane, getting there to where either bullets were flying at you or you were shooting back at something. How quickly does something like that happen, or how did it happen for you?
I will say this deployment was a little slower than my second deployment. We did a lot of time up in the towers and stuff like that, out in one of the main bases, Bagram there, and then we did a lot of the QR. We were basically the battalion QRF, so we sat on the flight line a lot waiting for units in contact and stuff like that. But it took a minute. We spent some time up north. We moved around a lot. Okay.
What was the feeling like, the morale of your division? And I know, like, from a country standpoint, after 9/11 happened, I think that was probably the most united I've seen our country in a very long time. Even currently, what was the feeling and the morale and the excitement, I guess, to go out and combat this terrorism?
The motivation was high. I mean, when you got a lot of these guys have been in the military for a while, so a lot of my sergeants at the time, and it wasn't like back in the Vietnam days. We didn't have very many guys with combat infantry badges, basically have seen combat. So, especially, like I said, these guys are career infantrymen, and they never got to see combat. Now they're getting their chance to prove their worth. So, I mean, the motivation of some of these guys and the leadership they had, I mean, was amazing. It kept us motivated. Shoot, it moved up from me being a private to me being a sergeant, using the same stuff that they did to me, I did to my guys.
So I want to get into July 5th, 2006. And I just want you to just kind of paint a very detailed picture to the listener on that day and that incident.
All right. Well, this was my second deployment. This was all different guys. So after I got back from my first deployment, the guys all ended up getting out, ETSing, basically getting out of the military. But a lot of them get stop loss and sent to Iraq because they got stop loss sent to a different division, went to Iraq. My unit actually got a whole company, battalion, if anything you want to call it, of basic trainees. So the few of us that actually had some time to stay and all that had to move up pretty quickly. So they were trying to, my lieutenant at the time tried to get me to be the radio operator because I was a more senior guy, and I told him, I was like, no, I want my own team. They're like, so I had to push for that, and finally he gave me my own team, and then I had to go to the board for corporal. But all these guys, like there was a very select few of us that actually went and seen combat before these guys, including our lieutenants and stuff like that. So a lot of our new lieutenants never even seen combat. So, but we got lucky and blessed with Lieutenant Burns, who was actually a Ranger School instructor before he actually became a lieutenant. So he was a sergeant first class, then became a lieutenant. So he was a pretty hardcore guy. And then we deployed with all these brand new guys. Of course, we had a few times. We had some time to train with them and everything else. So but I came really close with all these guys. I guess probably because I promoted and became a leader. So a lot of these guys are like little and older brothers because my first team was all older guys. So I was the youngest one at all of them. So it's kind of weird me yelling at some older dudes and have a lot more life experience than I do, except just don't have any military experience. But coming from the deployment wise, as soon as we got on ground, this deployment was balls to the wall. It seemed like we were always in the contact. Once again, we were the QRF for our whole battalion out of Organee, which is down south, and we ended up going to the west. We went up north to the Korangal for a while, went down south, did some missions down there with some of the other companies. Then this time we went to the Helmand province, which is West Afghanistan, which that was definitely, we definitely got they earned their combat patches there. We did a lot of combat. And
describe some of that, please.
I think it was like a week or two before I got injured. We were hitting a mission, hitting a town, and you could just see, like, a lot of the guys. You'll know when you're about to get in contact with people because you're going to see the families, the kids and women. Everybody's leaving. And we were driving up on this town, and we knew the town we wanted to hit. And this, like I said, the Helmand province is huge in the Taliban world. And you just see it all. Well, this happened to me every time. Like, even before this, like my squad leader, because I was a team leader at the time, he ended up getting blown up like the first month or two. And then he ended up leaving Afghanistan because he got destroyed by that, and I had a couple of my guys get injured. So I ended up getting voluntold to be the squad leader, and I was really nervous about that because, once again, 21 years old. There's guys been there longer than I have, but Lieutenant Burns and my two sergeant generals decided it was better for me to be a squad leader. So that was definitely nerve-wracking. But so we went to this town, and you can just see all the women and children just running out of it, and you can see guys running around with AKs, RBKs, just all the crazy gunnery. Well, every time, at least the past few times, when we hit IEDs or something like that, it was always the truck behind me. And this time we got hit. He got my platoon sergeant's truck, and who was it? Our medic was in the back truck. It was a good friend of mine, and the mine. Well, it was like a mine, and it went up, blew up the back of where he was sitting, instantly killed him. It was, and all his medic buddies had to sit there and try to work on him. And of course, at this time, we're trying to. As a squad leader, my lieutenant's looking at me because he knew we were in here with friends. He goes, "Nope, ain't got time for that. Get your guys." So it was kind of a gut check, and I had to go run to my guys. Of course, they're all upset, and just yelling at those guys. So, it kind of got real. That was one of probably the first experiences. As a leader, you lose one of your friends, especially like seeing that and seeing the way he looked. It's pretty hard. That was a rough week for the guys and for me, and trying to keep them motivated. I think one of the craziest ones probably like a week after that, where we were going on this one. Actually, this one was kind of entertaining a little bit, not for the guys involved, major part of it, but we ended up going through this little riverbed, and my lieutenant and a couple other trucks trying to get us out of a riverbed, and they drove into this town. Well, it was, once again, a Taliban town. And as soon as they hit it sounded like popcorn popping. Because they went balls to the wall, and those guys went through some crap. I actually sent you some of the pictures, or I got some of the pictures in my book here. That's what happened to the truck. I mean, they just lit it up and had to end up driving through a compound, and one of the guys got popped in the helmet. His name was Khan. We ended up started getting guys from different companies because a lot of us were getting injured. So this guy was actually from Bravo Company, I believe. And so we ended up moving into this town. And of course, you have to leave. We got our truck, so we had to leave a gunner and a driver. So now we're short on guys. So I'm basically walking in, instead of a 9-man squad, I've got a 4. And there's 3 of us, and we had about 12 guys because my lieutenant ended up getting pinned down in a town in one of the compounds. And man, their story, what those guys do, are amazing. Basically having a hole down each corner of the compound, throwing grenades. I mean, just you see this town, it was just hell. I mean, bullets flying everywhere. I mean, it was pretty crazy. Well, we moved in on foot. Our trucks moved in more of a support position. And, well, unfortunately, we ended up getting pinned down on foot as well in a little riverbed. So a bunch of other units came out. I'm not going to say the unit, but every time we'd get shot at, or we'd shoot back at the guys and trying to take some of them out, well, one of the units that came, for some reason, just couldn't see who we were, and they would light us up with the big guns, like 50 cals and Mark 19s. I remember looking at one of my guys after rolling down, I'm yelling on the radio, ceasefire, that's friendly fire. And I know a couple of my guys would tell me afterwards that they had to run to their trucks and tell them, stop, you're shooting at our guys. And I remember looking at another one of our replacements from Bravo Company. I look over and I'm yelling at him to make sure he's pulling security because his head's down. I was like, oh, God. In my head, I was like, this dude's dead. He's dead. And I was like, so I go over there, I'm crawling over to him, start grabbing on his leg, and he turned around and he goes, I can't hear, Sarge. I can't hear. And he's deaf as hell because one of the Mark 19 rounds went off by his head. He had a little shrapnel. It sounded like we all had a little shrapnel on us, but for the most part, no one got killed, thank God. But Apaches ended up coming in and just laying waste. It was pretty cool. Actually, it's probably one of the videos I sent you as well.
Before I forget, I want to ask about just the terrain, the environment, and also what you could see the mindset of the enemy and the Taliban, and what was that like?
Well, and more importantly, along that line, here when you're a cop, you see. If you're going to shoot out or fight, I mean, we're going to be across the table like this. How close were y'all ever to people shooting at y'all? Or is it always a distance thing and they just blindly shooting? Or, we can describe that a little bit better.
I think the one that I just talked about, that one that was a little more up close and personal. You actually see who you're shooting at.
Okay.
So, but for the most part, a lot of it is from distance shooting because they do sit up there because they got bigger guns. I mean, they got RPGs, RPKs. I mean, they're shooting down at you. I mean, they're making contact with you, and you're kind of hoping that some of your 5.56 is not going to really do the job. You're going to need something a little bit bigger, like your 50 cals and stuff like that. So, I think for the most part, yeah, there's a lot of a distance shooting, but it's pretty accurate. I'll tell you that.
What about the enemy's mindset?
The believers, they fought. I hate to say it, they fought well. I mean, you really had to, if you did not respect them, you were stupid. They had their terrain down to a T. It was a lot harder for us running up and down these mountains or getting in contact with these guys, and even the Afghan National Army guys. Those guys ran up those mountains a lot quicker than we would. Because, I mean, the altitude's so high up there. I mean, just on a level ground, the altitude's really high. So you walk 5 feet, just start breathing all heavy.
What about the temperature?
Hot. It was hot during the summer and cold during the winter. I mean, we got snow, ice. Of course, at night sometimes it would snow, and then the sun would come out at night. So you're walking, doing foot patrols, just busting your ass because got all that gear on and you just fall because of the ice. The roads are all ice, and there's not really any real roads anyway. It's all dirt roads. They got one road, which we all called Ring Road, and it just went big circle around Afghanistan.
You say they're believers. Do you truly believe they were willing to die for that cause?
Oh, yeah, all day. And they proved it many times, from vehicle-borne IEDs and stuff like that. I mean, they proved it. They were ready to die for their cause.
And taking as many of y'all as they could with them.
Yeah.
All right. Tell us about July 2006.
Ooh. July 5th. So this is like after a week after my buddy got killed, so it's still pretty hard for a lot of the guys. But once again, you don't have time to just slow down. So we kind of forced the guys to get back out there, get back on mission. And we were going actually just to set up an LZ, which is a landing zone for one of our sister platoons, and didn't do an operation with one of the groups. And I was point truck. In front of me I had a couple of scout trucks because we had scouts, my platoon, and then some of the group guys way behind us. So we had a pretty big convoy, but we kept them pretty separated from the front to the scouts. So the scouts were way ahead of us a little bit, probably about 2-3 clicks. And there was my 3 trucks. I think I had 3 or 4. And then a little bit, probably a click or 2 behind us, maybe not even that far, were the rest of the platoon, company or whatever. And we were driving. I actually got eyes on the platoon and everything else, so we're trying to figure out where we're going to set up an LZ. Well, the truck behind me broke down, which actually was one of my mechanic's trucks. So it kind of got a little frustrating. And then just kind of on my fault in this one. I should have PCI'd out these guys, but they didn't have a tow strap hooked up. So it wasn't like we can hook up and go. So there was a lot of that. My interpreter kept yelling at me, "Hey, Sergeant Remediz, we're talking about hitting the rear trucks." And I'm like, well, that ain't us. There's a bunch of us. We're pretty much up front. No, we were the rear trucks. I told my big guns, because we never really drive with our big guns locked and loaded because all the bumps and stuff like that in the road. A few minutes after that, my interpreter told me just all hell broke loose. It was just insane. I mean, we're sitting there and just the shots just start coming through, and I'm sitting there with my little AR yelling at my gunners to, direct their fire because RPGs are flying over our heads. I mean, you can hear the pops, the snaps flying by your head. I mean, your head's just over that truck, and you're just waiting. At any second, is this bullet going to come smash me in the face? Is this really about to happen? And then, of course, I'm 21 years old. I'm still a kid. I'm thinking in my head, okay, what do I need to do as a leader? And my whole thought process is, and I know what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to break contact, get out of the kill zone. But then I also have a thought process. I got a down truck with soldiers in it. I was like, well, how do I do this? So I'm trying to think. I'm yelling at them, "Do you got a tow strap?" And they're like, "No, sorry." Well, they had one, but it wasn't all hooked up, like I said. So I'm trying to figure that out. I'm trying to relay to my lieutenants, and my call sign was Outlaw 3-1. So I'm trying to tell him what I got, and he's like, all right, can you break contact? I was like, I can. I got a down truck. So I end up throwing my AR actually in my truck, and my gunner on the Mark 19 had a saw, so I ended up grabbing his vest, his LCE with all his rounds, and I grabbed his saw, his 249, had about 200 round drum on it, and I just started yelling at my guys, directing fire, saying, "Hey, shoot towards my tracers, especially my big guns, because, I mean, for the most part, our 5.56 is going to make it there, but it's going to be a little more effective with that Mark 19. What we learned through more combat experience is that the Taliban don't like our Mark 19 because it's an automatic grenade launcher, so we were getting rained on pretty good by it. I think I shot about 200 rounds. I'm sitting by, I got my team leaders up front. He's shooting. He's yelling at his guys. I'm yelling at my guys. I got another truck in front of me. We're yelling at each other. Everybody, of course, wants to break contact, and we're all just like trying to figure out this thing together. And so I sat behind my tire, and I was trying to reload another 200 round drum. And next thing I know, just a dirt cloud in my face. Just like nothing, like slow motion. I mean, it was a loud bang. And I didn't think nothing of it, really, honestly. I just, adrenaline pumping, I didn't feel anything, didn't think anything of it until a second one came. And that knocked me down to the ground. And I was laying there, and I was like, how do you remember this? I was like, I just didn't black out at all. I mean, I told myself I got to stay calm. Well, for the first few minutes, I'm not going to lie. I sat there, I laid there, and you just taste the blood in my mouth because I got hit in the left lung. I looked down at my legs. There's blood everywhere on my legs because I got hit in both legs. Big pieces of shrapnel, big chunks of skin out of my legs. Bullets are still flying by my head. I hear it's just nonstop combat. I look over my buddy Hef. He was on the ground too. You could tell he was hurt pretty bad. And He took some shrapnel. Well, actually, lucky, went up his helmet, smacked the back of his head, and then he got hit in the cheek too, the butt cheek, kind of jacked up his intestines and stuff, long-term stuff. And died, basically laid there. I could see him screaming. It was all real slow motion, man. I remember just looking at myself and just, is this it? Am I about to die? And I see my machine gun in there. Not like I still have some rounds flying by. You can just hear them just smacking around you, and you're just like. So I told myself, actually, I had this rosary, which, if you remember in the academy, they wanted me to take it out of my pocket, and I told them I didn't want to. My grandmother, before she passed away, gave me a rosary, and I had it both deployments. And I just grabbed it out of my little pocket, out of my arm, and I wrapped it around my hand. I told her, nah, not today. I'm not dying today. So I ended up leaning myself up, sitting myself up, which was, oh, God, that hurt. That was probably the first time I felt the pain. I mean, for the most part, I didn't feel anything. I'm just really kind of feeling snaps go by me. I think I took a couple of ricochets off my leg, my right leg. That's what the doctor says. They're like ricochets off the back of my leg. I think maybe that woke me up. I don't know. But lay there, try to reload some more rounds, and of course my legs are all damaged. Oh, we get hit by another RPG, and I think it's either an RPG or my gunner, Roth. He was on the Mark 19 reloading, and his tray got shot. So when that did that, it kind of got some shrapnel in his face. And this guy had been through enough crap already. I think that was like his third Purple Heart. Our platoon is full of Purple Hearts, I'll tell you that. Very, very well-earned Purple Hearts. And he got down and ripped open my vest. Was trying to keep me calm, and I just sit there. My guys all told me it looked like I lost my puppy. But he threw a sucking chest wound on my side, my left side, which, kind of helped out. You could tell he was nervous, but he did what he was trained. Can't fault the guy. Did everything right. And then my two buddies from the truck in front of ours bounded across all that combat, all that fire, gunfire, and stuff like that. It was Hirosik, which we called Hero. It was just easier to say his name. And then my buddy Winter, which actually I talked to him on the way here. And Winter worked on my buddy Hef, getting the bandage on the back of his head and gauzing I gauzed his butt cheek. And then Hero did tourniquets on both of my legs. So from there, of course, the whole time, it's slow motion, man. It's just, in the back of my head, you're trying to stay calm, not trying to go into shock. I want to kind of stay in the fight, so I'm trying to load my gun. I'm like, no, Sarge, you're good. Because come to find out, one of the trucks pulled out in front of us. So it was actually my lieutenant's truck. And actually my roommate came running out. He was the sergeant, actually one of my team leaders. And they ended up picking me up and throwing me in the back of one of their trucks and taking us out of the kill zone. At this time, this is when all the rest of the scouts came up, the group guys. So they're sitting there with their sniper rifles, miniguns. Apaches started showing up. They just started laying waste to the sideline. So what happened to us is that we got hit from the rear. So my guys were all focused on one side, and there's another hilltop right behind us, and there's an RPG nest up there. So that's who got us.
Can you describe your injuries? Once you get evac, you tell us about your injuries a little bit more.
So a piece of shrapnel went through my vest and went right through my ribs and lung, my left lung. So I had the sucking chest wound there. That sucked. That was definitely like breathing through a straw. It was really hard to breathe. You could taste the blood in your mouth the whole time. Like when I would lay down, I actually ended up leaning myself up the whole time on the stretcher, because when I lay down, I could just taste it. It's like sucking on, I know this sounds weird, but it's like sucking on a thing of nickels. Like really gross. It's really gross.
Joe knows about that.
Yeah.
Do that often.
Yeah. Sometimes it tastes good. Who knows? But then my legs, I got hit in both knees because of the way the shrapnel hit. So it hit my left sides. So it ended up hitting me in both legs. Got just big holes in my legs. They're pretty big.
I've seen the scarring.
Yeah, pretty sweet. But yeah, so I wasn't able to walk or anything like that. So my guys ended up having to carry me out, and then from there they took me up to out of the kill zone, what they call it, and it was still nonstop combat. These guys were. The crazy thing, I was that platoon that we were going to go set up an LZ for was actually one of my best friends was in that platoon, and they said they knew a lot of the guys in each of the platoons, and they said they all lost it when they heard it. Well, because I came out as KA at first. So we have 2 KA. Of course, my first sergeant got on real quick. He said, we got no KA, we got WA. So they said they all about lost it because they couldn't do nothing. They were too far away.
For the listener, can you tell what those acronym means?
So we got one is killed in action, and one is wounded in action.
It was really for me, not for the listener. No, I'm just kidding. I know what it meant.
You know, so you said your friends were hearing about that heard it was you, and I'm sure we're going to get to this. I know your dad was listening. Can you describe, have you all talked about what maybe he was going through his mind knowing this when this was going down?
So my dad was actually deployed to Afghanistan, but he was doing civilian contract. He had recently retired before my second because he deployed to Iraq when I deployed to Afghanistan my first time. And then this time he deployed to Afghanistan doing the same thing, doing military intelligence as a civilian. So he actually tracked a lot of the stuff we were doing from listening on the radio chatter and stuff like that from when we were up in the Cornwall getting into stuff. And actually right after the Cornwall, I went to the base he was at and saw him in the chow hall before I almost got kicked out because I smelled. But I ended up linking up with him right before I deployed again. Went back out on another mission, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, so basically he was listening to the chatter the whole time on the radio, and he could hear me talking, and then heard me not talk. So then it came on because he knew my call sign. He said, "Outlaw 3-1 down. We got possible 2 KAs." I mean, my first sergeant getting on the radio and said we got 2 WIAs. 1 is expected, which I was the expected, which, I mean, yeah, it's possible I'm going to die. Of course, that took a few minutes. Of course, like my dad and all his friends were sitting there, like, their little talk, and they were just, he said he just lost it. He said he was like, what? And all those guys looked at him, and I was like, that sucks. And then finally, when it came out as WIA, that kind of relaxed him, obviously. Not too much, but yeah, so he got to listen to all that good chatter.
Where were you taken into that for the surgeries, and what hospital did you go to?
And how long was the recovery process?
Oh God! So right after I got injured, like I said, they took me out of the kill zone, and I had a bunch of, like, I'm gonna say rookie medics trying to put IVs into me. And of course, they couldn't do it. So one of the sergeants come over, and he knocked one right into me, real good. I think he did it like right in my pelvic area because I lost so much blood that they couldn't even find a vein. And then I did the decompression needle on my chest. He's like, I wasn't even sure if you needed it, but I stuck it there anyways. And I kind of remember it, but I was on morphine up by that time. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And I still got the little scar tissue on my chest, and I was like, oh, that's neat. And from there, they have these things called Israeli litters, that's what they call them, and they would collapse so you can carry them. Because we're combat infantry guys, we're light infantry guys, we carry almost everything we do. So the guys set it up, the medics set it up. And like I said, I didn't want to lay down because every time I would lay down, I could feel the blood. I felt calmer sitting up. So I would hold myself up. And at the time, I also held my arm like this on my left side, pushing up against it, trying to hold pressure on my side because the wound. Plus, I had a big bulge in my left arm, which I thought was maybe broke. I just didn't feel it because it was just literally blood coming out of my arm and just bulge. And I thought, okay, maybe it's broke. No, it was just a little piece of shrapnel that apparently was in there. But they start carrying us. The Blackhawks come in. They start carrying us to the bird. Well, of course, one of the guys didn't put it in right, set it up right, didn't lock it in. So it just collapses right on my side. That freaking hurt. My first sergeant comes running up. First Sergeant Smith comes running up and just starts smacking him. Get out of the way, get out of the way. Picks me up in his arms and carries me to the Blackhawk. And the Blackhawk operator guy already has another one set up for me, so I lay on that. Carries my buddy half over, my lieutenant and a couple of guys carry my other buddy half over to the bird, and we get on the same bird together. We get on the bird, and we ended up flying back together. And we laugh about it till to this day, because when we were up in the Cornwall, we were sitting on top of a mountain out of an OP, an observation point, while everybody else was down at the bottom. I was the younger squad, so we always had to climb the mountains to get on OPs. And I remember this conversation. He goes, hey, Sarge, can I ask you a question? Can I tell you something? I was like, yeah, what's up, man? He goes, I don't think I'm making this whole deployment. We're sitting there making MRE coffee out of water bottles, and you stick them in the water heater to get them a little warm. And I started laughing. He goes, why is that funny? I was like, I don't think I'm going to make this whole deployment either. I don't think I'm going to die, but I think something's going to happen to me. And lo and behold, we both got injured together. So it was pretty crazy. We flew on the bird. We were flying to one of the FOBs to get stabilized. They got the medics who were on there just working on us as we're flying, and we're looking at each other just like, God, what just happened? But funny thing is we end up knucking each other. He goes, you okay? We just knuckle each other. We get to our first fire base, which was one of the group fire bases, one of the teams, special forces guys. And that's where we get stabilized. Well, at this time, I really have felt nothing. Like, no pain. I mean, it was just weirdness. Like, adrenaline's still pumping, I guess. I don't know. I really did not feel anything. Just more scared that I was, I'm going to die on this freaking dirt. All the way up till they sit me on the and they don't really knock me out yet. And they start taking the tourniquets off. Bandages off. And God, I've never felt pain like that before. I guess it was the blood moving again to my legs, but it hurt. And I was like, just knock me out. Just knock me out. Something. Do something. And then pretty much, I don't know how many hours it was. I wake up, got tubes in my chest, all kinds of IVs, pain stuff going through my arms, bandages on my legs. I mean, it was laying pretty much naked in this bed. Ended up having one of the guys, the SF guys, like, hey, can I borrow one of you guys' underwear or something? He's like, this is kind of something. I was like, I feel it's cold. One of the guys ended up bringing me some drawers. But then I was right across from my bed was my buddy Hef, so we got to sit there, and some chaplain was there. That's where I actually got those pictures I sent you. It was the chaplain actually took a bunch of pictures and everything else. I'm not even sure how he was able to get them to my dad or anything like that. And that was when I actually got to one of the sergeants coming there and said, hey, Sergeant, did you want to call your family? I was like, I'm pretty sure my dad knows. And they asked why. I was like, he's in Bagram. They're like, listen, he's doing intelligence work. He goes, oh, God. I was like, well, did you want to call your mom before the Army does? So I ended up calling my mom, and she goes, oh, hey. Because every once in a while we were able to use the satellite phones to call home, not much. And I remember talking to her. I was like, can you sit down? She goes, are you okay? I was like, well, obviously I'm talking. I was like, yeah, Mom, I'm okay, but I got pretty good. I got hit pretty good. She goes, and of course, she sounded really calm. But I knew my mom. My mom's very emotional, so I knew she was losing. I knew in her heart she was losing it. I felt bad. I was just like, God. I was like, well, Mom. She goes, what happened? I was like, I don't think it really matters right now, Mom. I'm okay. I'm talking to you. I'll be okay. I was like, she goes, does your father know? I was like, I hope so. So.
How much of all this did you actually remember versus what you've been told?
I remember it all.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. I remember it all. Some of the stuff I had to make sure what I remember was, correct. Like I talked to a lot of my soldiers and stuff like that, and past few days, I just wanted to make sure I was telling the correct story. They're like, nah, man, that's it.
Once you finally got to talk to your father, how did that go? And can you talk about that conversation?
So me and my dad always been pretty close. Like when he had cancer and everything, I've always used to go to all of his treatments and everything with him. So me and my dad have always been close. He's probably one of the biggest inspirations to join the military. So I know it was pretty hard on him. But so after I got stabilized and everything else, I got flown again to Bagram, which is the main air base. And on the flight line, my dad was there, just standing there, shaking his head. And I was like, of course I had a smile on my face. He goes, goddamn, son. He goes, you look like shit. And of course, rightfully so. And my dad was actually the one who wiped a lot of the blood off me, because I had a lot of blood still on my legs, my face, my arms. I mean, I was still covered in blood. So it was it was more, you could tell it was hurting him. And I just told him, I'm good. I'm going to be okay. He goes, oh, I know. He goes, and you could just tell he was hurting. He tried so hard to hold it back. I could tell. And I was just trying to be myself and just smile at him and just laugh. I was like, I'll be all right, Dad. Like I said, he was doing civilian contracting, so he ended up canceling his contract, and we ended up getting escorted back from one of the guys who did the surgery on me to Walter Reed. Well, one of the guys out in the FOBs who did the surgery ended up going back with us, so the group that we were attached to at the time for the mission, their battalion commander, Sergeant Major, made sure my dad got on the bird with us all the way back to Walter Reed. So my dad was able to keep in contact with my mom, telling him what was going on, where we were at after each one of the surgeries, because we had surgeries in Bagram. Flew to Turkey, I believe I had one there. Germany had another one there, all the way up to Walter Reed.
How many total surgeries do you say you'd had?
A lot of it was my lungs. and then just like maintaining like blood flow, I guess, to the legs. Too many. I don't really remember.
You had to relearn how to walk.
Yes.
How was that?
Hurt a lot. So, like I said, we went to Walter Reed, and I didn't eat for a while, and if you look at those pictures, you can tell how skinny I was. I mean, you lose a lot of weight being overseas anyways. It's a lot of work. You don't really eat that often. I mean, MREs here and there. It's kind of part of the life, the world there. But there's a lot of... They would give me a sponge to soak on. So I'd sit there and just suck on a sponge. From there, it was a lot of laying down, bandages on the legs. Their biggest thing was getting my lungs back to functioning. And my dad's the whole time he's there. I mean, when they're bandaging up my legs, he actually had my phone, my camera. Of course, it's one of them old school little digital ones, not 4K by any means. But he would take pictures of my wounds and stuff like that. But my phone ended up getting stolen in Walter Reed. The doctor came in and he said, "Hey, I got to keep you awake. I can give you a little morphine for this, but this is going to hurt." I was like, "What are you going to do?" "I got to stick a needle in your chest." So he ended up, that's when a lot of my little small scars on my side are. He ended up sticking a needle into my side, and he would just make it the hole larger and larger by putting like a tube on top of that and something on that. And he just started pumping and getting the blood out of my lungs. And because I thought that was kept collapsing my lung, I guess. And then, man, my dad actually left the room on that one because I was screaming. That hurt like crazy. Just someone just pumping. I mean, he was just sat there and just pumping this crap out of my chest. And I ended up passing out because of the pain and woke up a little bit, and they said that my chest was doing a little bit better. I mean, my lung wasn't deflated all the way, but I was able to breathe, so they kind of left it out and see what happened after that. It took a little bit, I guess, for my lung to relax and eventually come back up. In my mindset, I mean, I can make it back. That was my mindset. I'm going back. I was like, I only made it 6 months. I didn't make enough money. I need to make it back. Plus, I mean, I miss my guys. I mean, you're being in that situation. I would have did the whole time too. I mean, that's probably when my mental health stuff probably started really kicking in. Is I would have did. I regretted everything I did. There's probably nothing. Well, I talked to my lieutenant and everything. We kind of talk about it, but felt like I made a huge mistake. I did that to my friend in the room. So I mean, there was a lot going through my head, trying to maintain from mental health to getting back into shape, and I was very cranky with my parents because my mom flew in, and trying to learn how to walk. Of course, everybody's telling me to stay in bed, and of course, what am I doing? Getting out of bed and falling. So I'm always have to yell for my lieutenant or the nurse, and she would always run in there and yell at me too for getting up with no one there. I had to get up. I wanted to walk. Got my Purple Heart there when I was in Walter Reed from one of my dad's buddies. He was working at Pentagon at the time, so that was cool. But the whole time we're just sitting there, and my buddy Hef's the same way. We're both on walkers, trying to learn to walk, and we did our physical therapy together and everything.
At that point, what was the prognosis as far as what the doctors are telling you, and what were your thoughts about yourself, about what you were going to be able to do for the rest of your life?
I told myself I wasn't done. In my head, I mean, when I joined the infantry, I mean, I loved every minute of it. I loved being a ground pounder. I mean, it was great. That's what I wanted to do my whole career. I already had plans to go to Ranger School. I wanted to go to selection. I wanted to do all the hoo-hoo stuff. And, of course, in the back of my head when I was sitting there, I was like, I got to get back in shape because I'm supposed to go to Ranger School. And, of course, my buddies all yelling at my squad leader came visit me in Walter Reed and started telling me, "Dude, quit worrying about that, man." I was like, "Well, Sarge, I need to make it." He goes, "No, you need to worry about getting back in shape, bro." I was like, "Yeah, I know, Sarge, I know." But there was no real prognosis. I mean, they said I'll recover as long as I stay in shape and keep moving. And it took a little bit, but once I started walking, I mean, I think the hardest part of the physical therapy was my little brother. He stayed with me for a while, and I tried to walk into the bathroom and using the bathroom. Of course, I told him I was just going to the bathroom, but I really wanted to take a shower. It was stinky. And I tried to take a shower and I ended up falling, so it's probably one of the hardest moments. I knew I don't know, there's something about getting picked up by your little brother. It was pretty hard. And then from there, I think Stayed there, did a lot of physical therapy. And they actually let me come back to Dallas to finish up my physical therapy. Actually, when I was able to, had to do 5 things on my own. And basically I had to learn how to stand straight up, shave, brush my teeth, and all that stuff. And then they allowed me actually to go do my physical therapy here in Dallas.
All right, Tyler, you made this recovery and got back, and earlier when you said that one of your reasons you wanted to join the Army, you liked watching movies and Platoon. How accurate are any of movies to real life combat that you've seen? Are there any movies in particular that depict what it really felt like, or you can see or remember, or hey, that's what I did, or that's what I've been through, or how can you what describes that best? Are there any movies in particular that you say, hey, that's real life, that's combat, that's what I went through?
I think at the time, one of the best movies I think that probably did depict that a little bit was probably Black Hawk Down. I think that was a lot of urban fighting. So that was always one that I still watch and I go, whoo. I go, that's about right. That's about right.
There's a new movie out, The Covenant, with Jake Gyllenhaal. I don't know if you've seen that yet. Guy Ritchie did it, and it's a true story, based on a true story of one of the Afghanistan interpreters ended up saving the soldier and going through these towns. I don't know, have you seen that?
Yeah, that was actually a really good one too.
Yeah, really good movie.
Now I think nowadays with some of the different things that they can do with these movies, I mean, there's a lot of them now that are pretty hardcore. I
got to say, Saving Private Ryan was probably my hell when they went on that beach.
See, that one. We Were Soldiers. That was
Band of Brothers.
Oh God, I watched that religiously. That one, yeah, I would say that's another one. You can watch that and just get the chills.
I'm gonna tease a Band of Brothers-esque episode here on this show that we got a recording coming up in the future on Band of Brothers related.
Awesome.
So yeah, it'll be good. I getting off topic we talk about Band of Brothers. I love it too, not just for the accuracy and just for the pure great acting that was done in that and documenting history, but seeing so many great leadership qualities amongst the commanders, like Winters. It's so impressive. And I rewatched it recently just to enjoy and see great leadership versus poor leadership, which they endured, and how that could affect an entire division.
Yeah, agreed.
So you're in the process of learning to walk again. You're healing up. Tell us about when you realized that the military career was going to look different for you, and you were going to have a different path.
Well, like I said, I pushed myself pretty hard to get back into shape, get going again, because I wanted to get back to my unit, which eventually I did. I got back to my unit, but not overseas. What we did was called Rear D. And it's basically all the guys in the back. So there was a lot of us. Surprisingly, there was probably about, I think, 6 guys from my platoon that were back already from getting shot. And I mean, I've had quite a few guys get shot over there and injuries and everything else. So we had about 6 of our guys, including my lieutenant, end up come back and talk about great leadership. Man, that man, respect that man still today. And I mean, I talk to him all the time. I actually talked to him this week. We're good friends now. But we were all back on Rear D, and I kept trying to push. Hey, I'm running. I'm starting to jog again. I mean, it took a while. I mean, nowhere near where I was, but I mean, I didn't get the distances I used to get, and of course, my lungs were still pretty jacked up. And of course, the doctors would never sign off on it. They're like, no, he's not ready to get back on mission. So at that time, they told me more likely my legs are not going to be strong enough to do this. It was like I have like an 80-year-old's legs. So I mean, the knees are done. They're shot. So after that, I was kind of realized it. My leadership decided to tell me, not my personal leadership, but the higher ups, like I'm saying in they decided that maybe I should reclass to go do something else. And I laughed. I was like, I'm an infantry guy. What else can I do? I mean, that's what I want to do. And it was at that moment I knew I guess I'm getting out. And I told him, I don't want to do anything else. Just send me home.
How hard was that decision?
Oh, God. That was really difficult. Because like I said, that brotherhood, what you give those guys, I love those guys. Like I said, we still talk to today. It's been 16 years, 17 years, whatever. But we're still, I mean, we meet up every once in a while. And like, it's funny, one of the wives said it perfectly, and she posted on Facebook. We didn't see me like one of my buddies, Spurlaka. We all got together for a wedding, and he came to it, and haven't seen him in 10 years. She goes, it's amazing. These guys haven't seen each other in 10 years, and they acted like it was just yesterday they started hanging out. And that was definitely great. But it was exciting for a little bit because I was like, man, I guess I'm not going to be in the military anymore, but scary because I didn't know what else I was going to do. But then again, I was going through so much pain, and I will say a lot of the mental health issues and stuff like that, and being with my guys was my go-to. Because they're the ones who kept me in line, and I was their sergeant, so it helped keep me in line.
That grounded you.
It grounded me, yes. Definitely hard.
So at what point did you look at law enforcement as a new path? And why DPD?
So after I got out, I actually drove back down with my little brother again and put my Class A's on for the last time. And of course, we're driving home. We're in Texas. I pulled over like the side of the road, and I'm sorry, I know I'm going off topic a little bit, but when I had my Class A's on, I put my Class A's on for my parents to see me my last time. And of course, what comes on? Toby keys. So what's those?
Put a boot in your ass?
No, the soldier one.
Oh, traveling, yeah.
No, that's travel. That's Dixie Chicks of that. American Soldier.
Sorry.
Yes, sir. American Soldier. Of course, that one came on, and I lost it. Because I knew this was my last time I'm actually going to wear this stuff. But from there, I mean, I tried community college after I got out. Figured maybe I was ready. No. I sat around, and I'm not going to lie. I felt sorry for myself. I cried a lot, drank a lot. VA had me on all kinds of pills, sleeping pills. I mean, anything you think of, I was doing them. Like legally wise. And I had no purpose, nothing whatsoever. I sat around in my apartment. I quit going to school because honestly, I wouldn't think I was collecting my GI Bill money is about it, and just laid around. And I just, like I said, drank a lot. And then I think it was one day I was sitting there and I looked at myself and I'm an alcoholic. I'm a junkie. I was like, I gotta do better. And I quit drinking. I quit taking all those those VA pills. Honestly, I don't even know half the crap they gave me. I just took them because they would come literally in a box. I quit taking all the sleeping pills from the Ambien, Xanax, not the Xanax, Ambien to the Trazodone. And actually, one day I went with my little baby brother, went to the mall, Parks Mall, and ended up passing out. Apparently you're supposed to slow down. Don't just quit taking all that stuff. And I did. Cold turkey. That's almost how I'm done. I started going to the gym. LA Fitness was right down the road from my house, my apartment, so I just walked over there. And it was like a week later, I just ended up, wake up in an ambulance. I had a seizure. And then I stuck to my guns on that, and I was like, I'm done. I need to get back in shape. And my dad was like, what are you going to do? And my uncle was there too. We're all sitting around at his house. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know what I want to do. And I started looking into civilian contracting. I was going to apply to Dynacorps and see if I can get myself back overseas, honestly. And so I did all that paperwork, submitted that. And my dad and uncle were like, don't you got enough holes in you? I was like, yeah, you're probably right. And then they did something which I thought was random, and I laughed at them before. They go, well, you ever thought about becoming a Dallas police officer? I started laughing. I was like, you literally just said you don't want holes in me. Now you want me to go put it on a gun again. I was like, it makes no sense. But I started laughing. I was like, but you know what? I watch cops. I think I could do that. And I started laughing, and well, I did. That day I put in for the application, and luckily they were hiring a lot. And so,
what year was that?
April. 2008.
Yep.
2008. That was Dallas PD had a big hiring push back then.
Mm-hmm. Lucky for me.
Yep. No, lucky for us.
Economics helped you drive that the way the economy was going, because there was a lot of people that we hired, and there was a lot of combat vets or just vets in general that were getting hired, because I think the department even changed the college hours to where if you had active duty hours, I think they let you guys get over with not having to have the 45.
Yep.
So think of that last time you put on that Class A, and then you come to Dallas and you put on that Class A.
Well, it was Dickies first.
Oh, the Dickies first, yeah. We didn't even have those, Randy. We had to wear cheap JCPenney dress clothes for the whole until we got in the academy.
Awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, those went straight to the corner of my closet after that. The first few weeks. What was the first week? I think we had to wear those.
I think it's longer.
Yeah, no. For them, it was different. Yeah.
Okay. So, Randy, when did you first meet Tyler?
It was April 2008. And I talked about this before, but I got to be a class advisor, and I went out there, and it was a good class. There was a lot of, I guess 50% of you guys at least were vets. One of the things going, you're there 32 weeks or 36 weeks, however long it is. Every week before the class leaders got voted on, you always had to pick class leaders. And there was a lot of leaders in there. And I had a point there where there's a bunch of you guys that were sergeants that I had them in a row that, I was rotating. Okay, you're going to be class leader. And it took turns with all them because they were very, probably a lot more squared away than what we were, probably life experience wise, because we came from the state.
I didn't get blown up
from Foot Locker and the state hospital in Terrell, to what these guys did real things. So it was a good class. And one of my most memorable interactions with Tyler is I don't know if we were going to the quartermaster or where we were going. Maybe we were going to fill up a car with gas, and it was me, you, and Jason Randolph Phillips were in the car. And I asked you, I started asking about his scars, and he just looked at me and he said, I got blowed up. And me and Jason just kind of looked at each other, kind of like mouth open, like, okay. We didn't really go into it, but I had a lot of admiration for those kids because there were so many people that were doing their 4 years after 9/11, and then DPD was hiring them. And we were very fortunate to get a lot of those guys.
Yeah, we had a great class.
What class number was that?
306.
Okay. What was that class like? You going through actual Army boot camp and then being deployed and then coming in and.
Well, and that was one thing to me. I was like, I fucking know what we went through, and then half these guys, I'm like, we can't fuck, because they want to mess with them and do shit. I'm like,
yeah, these
guys have done real stuff, and there were some times I got in trouble with the way I handled things, because I didn't think it was necessary. But they they had their mindset on the leadership there at the academy, had their way they wanted to do things, and I was like, why are we going to dick around with these guys? It's like with the rosary, there's little things that I'm not going to take that away from these guys because, I know there's a difference, and I think these guys these vets, I don't think we have to worry about them where we got some college kid that, and there was those guys, those people needed more structure. And
the resiliency was already built within them walking in the door, as opposed to a lot of other.
Yeah, there were some. I had some philosophical issues with how they wanted to do some things, and
I think for the most part we took a chance. I think a lot of like you said, the veterans we know we're here to get smoked. We were down for it, and like you said, some of the college guys would just get a little frustrated with us because we start doing push-ups. We're always doing just like the military one, and then of course they would get frustrated. No, we're done doing push-ups.
There was one day
I'll do this all day.
Cruz was sitting there, and his little short guy, solid, and he was just sitting there laughing at me because we're making him do push-ups, and he's just sitting there with a big old smile on. He always has a smile on his face, but he's just sitting there pushing, and there was no way we were going to get him worn out. And I was just laughing to myself. I was like, why are we wasting our time with these guys? But it
was a good class though. We had a lot of fun.
So that's only 2 years from you being removed from the military. How was the physical aspect of things for you, having gone through all your injuries?
Honestly, it was because I got out in late 2006, probably December. 2006 was my actual ETS date. So I was still trying to stay in shape and everything else, but I think I was on my prime almost. I don't think I was ever going to be the way I was in the military running wise, but when it came to the physical aspect of the academy, I had that all down. I had no issues without the running and everything else. I always ran with my DT partner who was a special forces guy, so we always jogged together and kind of motivated some of the other slower guys.
Who are some of your classmates who are still here?
We got Randolph, Wortham. Who else is
Chris Adams.
Chris Adams, yeah.
Gentleman Chris Adams.
Yeah.
Nilson from SWAT.
Oh, there's still I run across
More
Jimenez.
there,
Jimenez is here.
Yep.
What's his name? Ortiz is in a homicide or SIU.
Yeah. There's a
Latera
few.
Sims, she came in the office the other day.
O'Neill, I
Yeah.
seen her the other day. Well, a while back, anyways.
I'm having a real hard time here with you had a class full of vets that were pretty squared away, and then Chris Nilsson.
And then Chris Nilsson, yes.
I love Chris Nilsson.
That was
Chris
my
Nilsson
roommate.
was not
What-
your squared away guy. Chris Nilsson is your typical party boy. Yeah. Okay.
I got some stories.
I would love. They were renting a house together.
Yeah, me, Nelson, and my buddy Almachar.
Yeah, Amilcar's still here. I would have loved to just because I sat there and I was like, oh my god, I kind of envy these guys. They're young.
Stabbing cabin.
Oh, I can only imagine.
No, don't get me wrong. I love Chris. He's hilarious, and he's a squared away dude when it comes time to be squared away. But when it's not time, that dude is a riot. Like
Yes.
he is fun to listen to and just says the craziest things.
That's definitely one of my BFFs right there. Him and Jason Randolph were probably my two closest guys, and Almachar and all that. So, but yeah, oh god, I agree. There was some, like, we had a pool and everything, and then we rented it from another officer's family or something like that, and then we had a pool and there was like green. One day it was actually when we were in the pistol range. I ended up loading it up full of shock, and I don't know what the heck I was thinking, but we were all hanging out, and I had one of my Army buddies jumped in. I don't know why, but then I followed him because he was down visiting. So I jumped into, and the next day, I was poisoned. I was like, that was nuts, Mart. And I remember, I'm not sure what her rank is now, but Star, she called me Remedial.
Yeah, she's still here. And, Julio still here.
He called me Remedial, and she would call me Remedial, and she goes, "What's wrong with him?" And Nelson would tell the story. She started laughing. She goes, "That's why I call you Remedial." I mean, I shot fine, but it was just, I felt like I looked like dead. It was stupid.
Once you got out there and started working the street, what part of town did you go to?
I was Central.
Central? Okay.
Can we go back to the academy, though? I got one.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the academy for me, physical and the tactical stuff, I felt like I did really good at. Like I had no issues whatsoever there. It was books. It was the studying. I had no study ethic. I graduated high school. I'll say that. I'm comfortable saying that. I mean, I was probably a B, C, occasionally a B, but mostly C, D kind of guy.
That's why you were in the infantry.
And that's why I joined the infantry. Yeah, there was a reason why I joined the Army. I was straight out of high school. College was not for me. And so I had a lot of issues with those tests, and I'm pretty sure you remember that because there was a time where I had to sit down with these guys, and I thought about quitting. I told them I just can't pass these tests. I mean, I was bare minimum, literally it's not something to be proud of, but you got to be proud of something. I mean, I was top of the bottom of my class. Someone's got to be number one somewhere, and I was there.
That's admirable.
Thank you. I tried to take it like a champ, but I stayed motivated, pushed through it, and got
Hey, you
everything.
passed the Ticleo's test.
You know what? That was my best test in the DPD final. That was out of all my tests. That was my two best tests. How? I don't know. I mean, I guess I studied something right. But I think the hardest part of the academy, and I'm sure you're going to remember this one, is I think we're halfway through it. Halfway through the academy. I think we just got in Class A's. I was at a lunch break, and I kept getting phone calls from some of my Army buddies. And I come to find out one of my soldiers is actually the one that got injured. He got getting shot 3 times in the corn goal. And apparently he's from Vegas and all that. And his name is Derek Bilodeau, and he was a damn good soldier, man. One of those, he's kind of goofy, kind of nerdy kind of guy, but man, the kid was a beast. He got no complaints. But when that one firefight, I explained with my lieutenant getting pounded in that town, that dude, man, he showed his worth during that firefight from what I was told some of the stories. Well, I kept getting phone calls all throughout academy. Of course, we're not supposed to have our phones. Lunch came around, I called my buddy and say, "Hey, what's going on? Why people come?" Most of the guys still call me when something goes on, so it's kind of awesome, but sometimes kind of sucks when you get a phone calls from people nothing good happened. Kind of find out my buddy Bilodeau killed himself. And I had just talked to him like a week before, told him to come stay with me. And he's having issues. I mean, rightfully so. And nothing. I mean, I think I was fine through the whole lunchtime. And I guess it really had hit me. And I'm sitting in the academy class. And cause I sat right next to Randy. And I was actually, I was in the back because, the R's. And I remember I just started losing it. And I just had to leave. I think you and Sergeant Brooks now, right?
Yeah, he's retired. I think he left. Yeah, but he became a sergeant.
And pulled me outside.
Tommy Brooks.
I just remember. I mean, I lost it, man. I couldn't talk. I mean, it was pretty hard. So like I said, I love that kid, and it was one of the hardest decisions I had to make, like talking to my guys and these guys, because I didn't want to leave the department. go to a funeral and all that. But so I ended up staying after that, and I always felt pretty guilty about that. But the guys, we all went up there. I think after I got off of training and all that, sat at his grave and had some beers with him. So it was kind of cool. But yeah, that was pretty difficult. That's probably, I think, out of everything, the tests and everything, that was probably the most difficult thing to try to decide. I mean, tests were hard, but staying because your buddy just killed himself, I mean, it was hard. So.
Well, this show doesn't shy away from dealing with tough conversations about suicide or depression or anxiety and all the above. And the military profession, suicide is pretty prevalent.
Yes.
Just like it is with the first responder profession, which you endured combat-wise and just going through it. And then PTSD is real, and it's never ending.
No.
And you have to do the steps and put the work in to take care of yourself.
Yeah, I was always lucky. I mean, like I said, even before I tried even during the department, during the academy and everything else, my first few years in the department, I went through a lot. I was still going through a lot. I mean, there was a lot of no sleep. I was happy to be on nights because I didn't sleep anyways. I mean, just alcohol abuse, sadness, depression. I mean, yeah, I was joining a new group of brothers and sisters and everything else where I'm at in the department, but still part of me missed the brotherhood I had over there and didn't have any, like, I guess we would say real close friends. So those guys were everything to me. And now I'm just sitting here and I sat around a lot, drank a lot, cried a lot. And eventually my dad snatched me up and kind of forced me to go talk to somebody. And honestly, that was probably the best thing I could ever do. And she kind of taught me to own what happened to me. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why, especially a lot of guys that know me, know that I don't mind talking about it. I mean, maybe not the full throttle what we're going through today,
Yeah.
But, well, that doesn't make for a good conversation.
Well, I think usually when you have a one-on-one conversation, telling stories with a friend is one thing, but when you're having to tell it in this situation,
Yes.
because for whatever reason, Joe knows more than me, this environment,
Intimate.
And it's intimate, and it seems like it exposes the guest a lot more than what normal conversations at lunch might.
Well, and service to others is what this is one of the missions of the shows. I mean, the education and awareness, talking about things. When you go to a counselor, what do? You talk. So my idea with the show was to educate people about other people's successes and their failures. And yeah, I'm proud of our listenership. It reaches a lot of people, and I'm happy, and that's what it's designed for. Your story, there's thousands, God knows how many other stories that are similar. Somebody may hear this and they see themselves and they get help, or at least come away with
I think hope,
a laugh and hope. Yeah.
I think if anyone's going through stuff you've gone through, I would think it would give them hope. Man, Tyler's made it. I can make it. It's different for everybody, but if we can hand out the hope or give them hope or, bridging the divide, we can hope the divide, I think is an important thing because it's needed.
That's what I tell people. I mean, I don't regret. I mean, I have my little bit of regrets about how I maybe handled things, but I still feel like from what I'm told, I still feel like I did the right thing. But I don't regret it. I mean, that was something that built me to the person I am today. I owned it. I wanted to own that thing. I mean, it's something maybe not now I tell my kids about, but definitely going to want to. I mean, they already ask questions when they see me in the pool or something about my scars and all that. I was like, don't worry about it. We'll talk about that later.
Are you going to let them listen to this?
No.
They will eventually.
Yeah, they will.
That's why preserving these stories on this show is it's out there forever. So they'll be out there for your family, for their families, and
well, I mean, I hope they listen to it. I mean, I'm sure they will. I mean, I know they're pretty interested about what goes on. My son's huge into reading about military stuff and stuff like that.
Sure, the missus is going to listen really quickly.
Yeah, I love you.
We'll talk about her in a minute. I want to get into your DPD career as far as what I hear about your reputation as an outsider looking in. From what I hear from other people, is how good and how patient of a FTO you are. Why is that important to you?
I don't know. Because I spent, I think, 2 and a half years in, I went straight to CRT when they actually really started forming the CRT teams from just deployment to CRT. And I loved that. Was probably the best years of my life. I will say that. I worked with some freaking amazing cops. A lot of them in SWAT right now, from Willis, Sergeant Coddington, McCarthy. There's a lot of guys just out there doing high-speed, cool stuff. Lieutenant Foreman, Lieutenant Hurst. Just a bunch of group guys. Steve Shivers. I loved working with him, and a bunch of old guys that retired from deployment. Those guys kept us pretty much grounded. But that was the best years of my life, and I enjoyed it. But then they all started to be growing up and promoting up and becoming sergeants, lieutenants, doing bigger and better things. And I just never really thought I'd do that. I held off taking the corporal stripes for a very long time. I think I did, 13 years in, I think it decided to take the stripes. Because after they all left, I went to the bait car unit, did that, enjoyed that, worked with some good group of guys here in headquarters. Actually had days, weekends off. It was kind of nice, normal, from night shift for my 13 years, whatever it was. Then I got part of my job was to read the rest, reports.
Big word.
Yeah, it's a very confusing word. Leave it alone.
No wonder you had struggles on those tests. Just kidding.
Got caught in mouth. But no, I started reading those, and of course I go back to, I don't want to read this crap. I want to do this. I was like, I missed it. So finally I took the senior corporal test seriously. It's the first time I took it. I was sitting next to my wife, and when she was on the department, and I was like, I got bored of reading. I was like, I don't really care. See.
Pop platoon back in and start watching TV.
Yeah, I was like, all right, I'm done. She goes, what are you doing? I was like, I don't want to take this really. I was like, I don't really plan on taking the test anyways. I didn't need the money. I didn't care for that. I liked where I was. Granted, at that time they weren't going to change it anyways. I just didn't care. As a dummy, I'll say that I was stupid for doing that. But 13 years later, I decided to take the senior corporal test seriously, and I actually passed it, and decided when I was up at the Bay Car unit to take it, and I called down to Central, and I was like, talked to Lieutenant Ford. I was like, hey, can I come back? And his first thing he says, will you train? I was like, I've been wanting to train because they talked about it for years. I think when Chief Brown was in charge, where they wanted to do POs, and I volunteered every time. Hey, I'll train. I enjoy that. I enjoyed it in the Army. I loved training soldiers. I loved that. I was what they called a field sergeant. I hated sitting around doing paperwork back at the station, back at our base. I wanted to be out in the field. I wanted to be training. So when that came around, I was like, yeah, I'll train. I was like, put me on there. So I think there was the first day I get there, I get back, bam, here you go, here's a rookie. I was like, I haven't been to that little class yet. I was like, okay, let's do it. From there, it was just fun. Had some troubled children, but for the most part, it was a blast. It was fun just being able to mold somebody and teach them some of the stuff that I've learned through my career, and the fun part of the job. And I'm not a negative. I don't consider myself a negative person. And there's a lot of officers that are just pretty negative, especially when it comes to talking to rookies. And I think that's what brings our department down a lot, is just that negativity.
It breeds cynicism, and it's this profession. It is so easy to get engulfed in that mindset and just be miserable, and you kind of make other people around you miserable. Yeah. And if you want to go to the DPA members page, and you see the complaining.
Well, I think the two biggest positions on this department are FTOs and patrol supervisors, because those two positions have so much influence on how morale on what an officer is going to be, or the experience they get. Because I'm sure everyone's had them. You get a shitty FTO that it's making you do the dumbest shit. It affects.
It sets you on a path.
Yeah.
It can set you on a path, and then when you have bad supervision over a sector, it could, it could bring. It's negativity is more infectious than anything.
Yeah. I had some pretty good FTOs. For the most part, one of my two favorites were probably Sergeant Wright, who's an MPO sergeant now, and Sergeant Arispe. She came to me when I was on fourth phase, and I had a lot to learn still. With Sergeant Wright, I learned a lot about, because he was doing the CRT thing, not the really in-play CRT, but the group of guys that went out and did stuff and learned how to do dope stuff and did some family violence. He got me learning how to talk to people. And then with Sergeant Risby, she came with advice. Okay, what do you need to know? I was like, just about everything. She goes, okay, started laughing. She goes, okay. So we just answered of course I'm on days, answer everything. We ended up going down on Channel 7 a few times, and of course we didn't have the maps on the computer, so we had to go to the maps go. Start pulling on the side of the freeway, both of us sitting there going through our maps goes and trying to figure out where the hell we're going.
Y'all have computers with maps now?
Now we do, yeah.
Oh, wow.
You can actually see a picture of somebody when you run them on their
wow.
driver's license now. I know, it's high speed.
What do you want to instill in your rookies whenever you send them off? What do you want to leave them with? Or what kind of officer do you want to try to mold them to be?
See, I think I get looked at like I'm the more proactive, not much of a call answer. I know I hear people say things about it, but it's all right. But I am proactive. I like to do proactive policing still. Even I've never been IED or PIU. I've done it pretty good. Yeah, knock on wood. Doing well. But no, I like to instill the guys just go out and have fun. This job it's dangerous, but it's fun. And if you can learn the safety part of it, like even proactive policing, that teaches a lot of officer safety and a lot of search seizures. So I do a lot of proactive policing.
Helps with report writing too.
Yes, and I like when most of my guys now, they all can go to jail and be just fine. There's none, like I can't think of any of my guys that are sort of frowned upon about going to jail because, you know, we go to jail at least once a night. I tell them, get me to jail once a night. That's all I ask. I don't care how many calls we answer. If you can get me to jail once a night, it's game. It makes it simple for me to write DORs too, instead of going to 15 calls.
I want to get into something, and I'm going to drag Lieutenant here on the mic. Frontline Realty. LT, you reached out to me on Facebook Messenger, and you're kind of like, hey, been trying to figure out how to approach this, and let's just do this. Can you talk about you first communicated with me and about the program?
Yeah, so I guess it was early 2023 that I reached out to you.
Yeah.
Tyler, I think, had just gotten his real estate license. I'd had mine for a couple of years, and we just kind of weren't happy where we were at, so we formed Frontline Real Estate Team. That was late 22, I think, when we formed that. And I'd always had the desire to help others. It's just hard to figure out how to do that, right? And I'd started listening to the podcast, and I'd always heard these great stories about Joe King, right? He was a legend at Southeast. And
I'll amplify the mic when you said that.
Yeah,
I'm just
Mark,
kidding.
what time was that?
Legend.
I put that to the intros.
yeah, I mean, you always heard about Joe King and Pat Starr and everybody down there, and so there was some nerves there, like, oh my God, I finally get to meet this.
Were you
My
like-
wife,
hero.
my
Did
wife,
he meet
Kristen is going to throw
expectations?
up when she hears this.
This
Did he-
badass.
Did that meet expectations?
A little bit. He's shorter than I thought he was. But and so I think listening to this podcast and kind of paying attention and learning more about the ATO, I was like, that's how we can help people. We have this platform where we, as police officers, can contact and reach out to a lot of officers, not just on Dallas, but other departments. Tyler's got the military background, so he knows a lot of people there, and just wanted to figure out a way that we could help the ATO and give back. And so, yeah, we met with Joe and some of the board members one morning and figured it out. Figured out what works, how we can do it. And so what we do is we donate a good portion of our commission back to the officers to help them, saving money on buying a house. And at the same time, we donate another portion of our commission to the ATO on every sale that we do for veterans, for officers, firefighters, all that stuff.
And it's heroes helping heroes.
Yep.
So I will speak on the sponsorships which you guys have done, and I remember us having a conversation and say, hey, let's come in and let's meet about this. And y'all have sponsored the Kevin James Clay Shoot, the Bill Carollo Golf Tournament, the Bags for Badges. You've done you've helped with cookouts. You've gotten raffle items for us. I mean, y'all continually, with some sponsors, they'll sponsor just like one event that we have throughout the year, but you guys are always involved and God, thousands of dollars you have donated to the ATO has helped many lives with counseling and just financial assistance. So thank you. Seriously, that you guys are is such a great partnership, and I can't thank y'all enough for that.
Well, we appreciate the opportunity.
Why is giving back though? Why is that so important to y'all?
I think a lot of it, I will say this. When I first got in the department, I think it even goes with a lot of younger officers too. No one really gets involved with the department. I never did. Look how long it took me until I became a realtor. I learned about the DPA, what they do, learned about the ATO, especially the ATO and what you guys do. And then having my background with a lot of the mental health stuff and physical agility stuff and all that, just from getting injured and really not having anything to go to. I mean, I had the VA, but, like I said, they box appealed me, and most of it was because my dad helped me out and get the help I needed, and then friends and family. But there was and then being on this department and seeing some of the crap that we have to see every day and stuff like that, and some of these officers go through, but there was never anything for them to really, I mean, we had the peer program, I think, which is great. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to crap on that. I'm just saying the wellness unit started. I mean, what the ATO does with a lot of the guys with alcohol problems, I mean, mental health issues, there's a place to go. And that's why I think I'm huge to giving it. I love it.
Because you've experienced all the above,
Yes.
which you just talked about.
Yeah. And that's a lot of things me and dudes talked about. This is why we want to do this. It's almost like the right thing to do. I like to say it's what it helps us to help other people.
Yeah, and I've had some partners that I've reached out to the ATO in the past and said, hey, this person's going through something. They're going to take a huge financial burden on this. Can y'all do anything? And every time y'all stepped up. And that's opened up my eyes to, giving back. I think we all joined this profession because we want to help, right? That's what we all said, hiring on. And I think it still rings true with everybody. Everybody in this profession wants to help somebody. And that was a part of me getting my real estate license. I had terrible realtors. And I wanted to educate these people, on buying a house. The moment you talk to me to the time that we finish, and even after that, because I still have clients reach out, hey, is this a good idea? Can I do this to my house? Is it going to be, is it going to make money? Am I wasting money? They still reach out to me for my resources on contractors and all that stuff.
Well, my wife's a broker, and she tells me there's bad realtors out there that give realtors a bad name, and she always tells her agents, hey, we're here to take care of the client, and she always stresses that. And I think when you have the connection, if you're helping out a former vet or first responder, helping them get a house, because that's a big deal, they want to know that they can trust who they're using, because that's a life-changing
It is. I mean,
event.
For most people, it's the biggest purchase they ever make.
Yeah.
It's their house, and it's the biggest investment that they make. And so you want to make sure that you're guiding them, especially as first-time home buyers, to making the best choice for them.
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah, and then and y'all are both have been immersed in the police and first responder culture for a long time, and we have trust issues, and then buying is already the biggest purchase you'll ever make in your life. We want to know that who we're dealing with is somebody that we can trust, and and it's worked with both of you guys in the selling and buying house, and I would recommend Frontline to anybody, anytime, anywhere. And it's not just because you help the ATO. I believe in both of y'all as people and officers. Tyler, before you wrap this up, I want you to talk about your family. So I've met your wife and your beautiful kids.
I met my wife actually on the department. She did 8 years in the police department. Did a lot of time on bikes downtown.
What's your name?
Celeste.
Are you sure?
Sometimes. No.
Was she senior to you or junior to you?
Junior. I think I have like a year on there, maybe a few months. I don't know. But she was a 9800 badge number. So we met actually in an academy class. I was sitting there. I hated going to those classes. Obviously, I'm not the class people. So I was sitting there slouched over. She sat in front of me. We talked a few times and everything else. I ended up getting her number by playing Words with Friends when that was big. So started hanging out there, talking a few times, and we dated for a while. I think people always criticize me for this, but I think we knew each other for about 6-7 months before I asked her to marry me. And then we ended up marrying a year out, after like a year been knowing each other. So we've been married 13 years now.
I'd call it success.
I agree. Yeah. She was my, like I said, it was earlier in my career, so she kind of stabilized me a little bit. Like I was still having a lot of issues. I mean, I was getting better mental health wise, but I think when she came along, she
a vet too? Did you mention that?
Yeah, she was in the Air Force.
Okay.
And she just put her foot in my butt, and I mean, it was just slowed me down, got me my mind right, a lot of things. I mean, it was awesome. It's like she was basically my rock. And I will always love her and care for her that way. that she took care of me. I mean, she's still today. She takes care of me. I mean, she got out after our third kid, but decided to resign, stay at home. But God, we need that. Got some wild kids. I got a 12-year-old. I got a 9-year-old.
Say their names.
No, so my oldest is Leela, and she's a little sweetheart. She's 12. She's in 6th grade. She's plays soccer. I mean, she's an awesome kid. Just a really nice girl. I mean, and I got my son Owen, and he big into baseball. I mean, actually, me and Sergeant Kimple coach our Spartans baseball team in Rockwall, so it's a lot of fun with that. And then that kid loves to read and everything else. And my other daughter Emma, and she's big into reading. I mean, she plays soccer. I mean, she's total different personality from the other two. I mean, she'll look at you like she just don't care. She has her mom's personality. She just has that rock solid face. Like, I could say something to her. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, yep, okay. And then I got a 2-year-old who Liv, and she's just a 2-year-old, and she's crazy. She's funny. Got a pretty good little family there. Yeah. They're like pretty much everything that I strive to improve and help out. I mean, I people ask me why I work so hard and do all this. It's for them, honestly. I mean, my wife does a lot for our household. Take care of me. I mean, she knows of the job mentally. She knows how to keep me in line and keeping the kids in line, keeping the house taken care of. I mean, she does a lot.
Keeps that old Wild Dick persona at
yeah.
bay.
Yeah, Wild Dick stays down.
Yeah.
That guy's gone.
She retired Wild Dick.
Yeah, that's retired. Now it's just
Dick.
Tyler.
Just Tyler. Senior Corporal Remediz.
I'm just Tyler now. But nah, she's amazing. She does a great job with us and the kids and everything else. And God, I don't know where I'd be if I didn't have her. I'd probably be still going downhill, probably, more than likely. That doesn't mean you can't make me do everything, babe. It's okay. Just wanted to let you know. I love you.
So you've just taken us to a long journey, growing up as a military brat, going into the military yourself, going into combat, nearly getting killed, and going to DPD. And you talked about a close friend that took his own life. And I always want the listener to have a lasting message from our guest. What would you tell those out there that are struggling, veterans that have gone through the same thing you've gone through and much worse?
I will say, I talked about him, but there's been quite a few others. I mean, I lost a good amount of my buddies to the suicide. And it's a struggle for those guys. I mean, for all of us, really. I mean, some of the stuff we do and see, it's a struggle. We got to be opened up to find help. You have to. I mean, whether it's your friends, your family, just going to talk to somebody, you have to. And it's not a sign of weakness. It's not. And then the stuff that we see every day, the stuff that you've been through, it sucks. For me, what helped me was owning what happened to me. I don't say suck it up. I would say own it, because I don't sit there and feel sorry for myself about it. I mean, yeah, I have my issues still, but I'm owning them. And if I have something I need to talk about, I talk about it with my wife. I got my parents. I got my wife's parents. I mean, finding that structure, I guess, finding those people that you can depend on, and just working through your problem instead of saying it'll go away. It's not going to. It never does. It's part of life. I mean, you got to learn how to deal with your stress. PTS is a big thing. So I'd say find the help. There's plenty of people out there willing to help.
Hey brother, hey sister, I'll never give up on you. Hey Mrs., hey mister, I'll see this all the way through. No matter how far the sun and the moon, I'll never give up on you. Down when you're lonely, I'll pull you up. Life leaves you heavy when the going gets tough. I'll be your shoulder. Together we'll run up from the bottom, yeah, we'll rise above. Hey brother, hey sister, I'll never give up on you. Hey Mrs., hey mister, I'll see this all the way through. No matter how far the sun and the moon, I'll never give up on you. Give up on you. Hey brother, hey sister, I'll never give up on you. Hey Mrs., hey mister, I'll see this all the way through. No matter how far, for the gold and the blue, I'll never give up on you.